AI humanoid robot collapses during live Computex 2026 demo in Taiwan. A live demonstration of Qualcomm's latest AI-powered humanoid robot took an unexpected turn at Computex 2026 in Taipei, Taiwan, after the robot suddenly collapsed on stage in front of a large audience. Now let's dig deeper into the story and uncover what really happened
Picture
on
this,
our
okay.
AI
It
podcast.
is Computex 2026. We are in Taipei, Taiwan.
Right.
And the auditorium is just packed shoulder to shoulder. Thousands of industry insiders, journalists, tech enthusiasts. The lights are blinding, and the energy in the room is just electric. Everyone is waiting for the main event.
Oh, yeah. The anticipation of those things is wild.
It really is. And then out walks the future. It's the state-of-the-art, artificial intelligence-powered humanoid robot, and it strides across the stage to join a human speaker. It is this moment of pure, cutting-edge triumph until suddenly it just isn't.
Yeah.
Without any warning, the robot loses its stability and completely faceplants right onto the solid stage floor in front of this massive, stunned audience.
The silence in a room like that, it actually has a physical weight to it.
Oh, I bet.
Thousands of people just hold their breath at the exact same moment. And that's followed immediately by the unmistakable sound of a very heavy, multi-million-dollar piece of machinery just hitting the deck.
I mean, in the year 2026, we all know the drill, right? The smartphones go up, the cameras start rolling, and within minutes, the video of this cutting-edge robot collapsing is everywhere.
Yep.
Instantly. It's a global viral sensation. But here is the mission for our deep dive today for you, the listener. We are not just going to watch the meme and laugh. We are taking this viral video of the Qualcomm AI humanoid robot's collapse, and we are going to look under the hood.
Exactly. We need to move past the memes
Yeah.
and look at the engineering reality underneath all of this.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this because the visual optics of this event are just wild. But the technical story is so fascinating. Let's start with the actual narrative event itself.
So the robot in question, it's powered by Qualcomm's Dragonwing IQ-10 artificial intelligence platform.
Okay.
And it was introduced during this major keynote presentation. The objective was honestly pretty straightforward. Walk to the center of the stage, stand alongside the human speaker, and just demonstrate the fluid, real-time processing capabilities of the Dragonwing system.
Right, and if you watch the footage, I mean, it starts out looking really careful and deliberate. It's making its way toward the center. Then, in just a fraction of a second, there is a complete loss of stability.
Yeah, a total drop.
It's this loud, incredibly hard, face-first collapse. Like,
Wow.
there is no stumbling, there's no long, drawn-out attempt to catch its balance by waving its arms around or anything.
No, not at all.
It just goes straight from operational walking to a total system halt, and gravity just takes over.
Which, that is the first clue that this wasn't a mechanical failure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because a snapped joint or like a blown motor usually results in a localized collapse. So one leg gives out and the machine naturally tries to compensate with the other. Yeah. But this was a simultaneous full-body cessation of movement.
Wow. And the moments immediately following the crash are what really turned this into a viral spectacle. There are these two specific details that feel ripped straight out of a science fiction comedy.
Yeah, they really do.
First, right after the impact, while the robot is lying rigid, face first on the floor, it briefly raises a single fist into the air.
Right.
Just one robotic fist, straight up, almost as if it was trying to signal to the auditorium that it was still alive. It honestly reminds me of tripping on a public sidewalk.
Oh, absolutely.
You take a massive, awkward stumble, and before you even know if you are injured, your immediate reaction is to pop up and yell, "I'm okay!"
Yeah.
Strictly out of sheer embarrassment.
Which is such a human way to look at it. From an engineering standpoint, that raised fist was likely a localized servo motor resetting or maybe a delayed command bleeding through the system as it shut down.
Right, right.
But from a human perspective, it was this striking, almost poignant gesture in a decidedly non-human moment of failure.
Yeah, exactly. And then comes the second detail. The robot is clearly unable to get back on its feet. Within seconds, the Qualcomm robotics handlers rush the stage. But they don't just, drag the hardware away. They pull out a small satin cloth.
A satin cloth, yeah.
And they drape this cloth over the robot to cover it up before they carefully carry it off the stage. I mean, they were obviously trying to minimize the visual distraction, but it ends up looking like they're respectfully covering a fallen gladiator or something.
It really highlights this intense tension, right, between showcasing a raw experimental prototype and trying to maintain the PR illusion of a perfectly seamless future.
Totally. So what does this all mean? Beyond a viral, memeable moment, what was actually happening inside the robot's brain when it went down?
Well, They wanted to literally throw a curtain over the reality of real-world testing. But to understand what actually caused that reality, we have to look at Qualcomm's official technical explanation.
Okay.
The Dragonwing IQ-10 platform didn't suffer a hardware break. Its legs didn't snap. What triggered the collapse was a temporary communication glitch.
A communication glitch, meaning like the brain couldn't talk to the body.
Essentially, yes.
Let's define what that actually means physically inside the chassis of this machine.
Sure. So inside a humanoid robot, you have the central AI processing unit, that's the brain, and you have actuators.
Okay, actuators.
Right, an actuator is essentially the physical muscle of the machine. It is the mechanical component, usually a highly precise servo motor, that takes a digital command and turns it into physical movement, like, driving a joint forward.
Got it.
And the Dragonwing IQ-10 is constantly sending thousands of these micro commands to those actuators every single second just to maintain balance.
Wow. And during this live demonstration, that flow of data between the AI processing unit and the physical actuators and the limbs was momentarily interrupted.
Correct. The data packets simply didn't arrive.
Wow.
Now, in early robotics, a glitch like that was completely catastrophic. The robot might freeze rigidly in place and just tip over like a felled tree. Or, honestly worse, it might start moving erratically because it's trying to execute fragmented, corrupted data packets.
Right. But according to the company's statement, that erratic movement didn't happen here because the communication glitch triggered a deliberate built-in safety protocol.
That's exactly.
Qualcomm called it an intentional, programmed, safe collapse sequence. So, the system recognized an internal communication error, prioritized safety over the demonstration, and intentionally deactivated its structural tension to bring itself to the floor.
Yep, that's what they said.
But wait, I have to play the role of the skeptical learner here and push back on this.
Go ahead.
Wait, if there was a critical communication error, how did the robot communicate with itself well enough to execute a perfect safe collapse? Are we sure safe collapse isn't just brilliant PR spin for, it broke?
I get why you'd think that. But what's fascinating here is how modern robotics architecture has evolved. These machines are not built with a single monolithic brain running every single operation anymore.
Oh, they aren't?
No. They are designed with multiple decoupled layers of safety. So looking like a complete failure actually means the safety systems worked exactly as intended, preventing the machine from operating unpredictably.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, beneath the primary Dragonwing AI platform, there are lower-level safety controllers, independent circuit boards, running locally on the hardware itself, right next to the actuators.
Ah. So the legs basically have their own localized microbrains that only care about one thing.
Think of it like a dead man switch on a train.
Okay.
The primary AI is handling all the complex tasks, right? Mapping the stage, processing the visual data of the audience, calculating stride length.
Right, the big picture stuff.
Exactly. But the local controllers on the limbs are constantly expecting a steady heartbeat signal from that main AI. If those local controllers detect a sudden loss of stable communication, if that heartbeat drops even for a single millisecond, they don't wait around for a command to shut down.
They just react.
Yes, they are hardwired to execute the safe collapse autonomously.
So it operates totally independently of the corrupted data bus. If the signal stops, the local hardware immediately takes over and cuts the tension. Well, that clears up my skepticism on the PR front. The safety systems actually function perfectly by preventing the machine from operating unpredictably when the main system lost its connection.
They did.
And the source material actually outlines 4 main pillars for why the safe collapse protocol is so critical. Let's weave through those, starting with the most obvious one, human safety.
Right. Preventing injury to nearby people is the foundational pillar of deploying these machines anywhere near humans. A humanoid robot is a very dense, heavy piece of equipment made of metal alloys and incredibly powerful actuators.
It's essentially a walking car engine.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It contains a massive amount of kinetic energy when it's in motion. If the primary AI loses its spatial awareness, you want that kinetic energy neutralized on the ground immediately.
That makes sense.
You absolutely do not want a 150-pound blind machine trying to stay upright, potentially stepping off the stage or falling right into a human presenter.
So gravity is basically the ultimate emergency brake. Just get the heavy object to the floor as fast as possible, which connects directly to the next pillar mentioned in the sources, avoiding uncontrolled movements. We touched on the idea of a motor receiving fragmented commands, but the reality of an actuator holding a command is pretty terrifying.
It's a massive engineering hazard. If a servo motor receives a command to drive a limb forward with, say, 80 pounds of force, and the subsequent command to stop driving that limb gets lost in the communication glitch,
Oh,
the motor will just lock in and keep applying that 80 pounds of force indefinitely.
that sounds dangerous.
It is. That leads to wild, unpredictable flailing. By executing a safe collapse at the local controller level, the system instantly cuts power to those drive systems, rendering the limbs inert.
Okay, so we've protected the humans and we've stopped the flailing. But these prototypes are worth millions of dollars. A faceplant on a hard stage seems like a great way to destroy years of expensive development, which brings us to the third pillar, protecting hardware.
Right, because the safe collapse isn't just cutting the power and hoping for the best. It's actually a sequenced dampening of the joints.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The robot calculates its center of gravity in those final milliseconds and attempts to fall in a way that minimizes catastrophic damage to its most vital components.
Like the processors.
Exactly. The central processors in the torso and the delicate, highly calibrated sensor arrays in the head. Those are the most expensive pieces.
So it tries to land on its reinforced structural points. It attempts to go limp rather than falling rigid, which I guess would transfer all the shock of the impact directly into its own joints and snap them.
Precisely. It manages the dissipation of the impact force. And then the final pillar is perhaps the most crucial one for the long-term advancement of the technology. Collecting diagnostic data.
Ah, the telemetry black box.
You got it. The moment the heartbeat signal drops and the safe collapse is triggered, the system instantly locks down and logs a massive amount of telemetry.
Wow.
We are talking about a microscopic snapshot of the exact conditions, voltage spikes, thermal readings across all the circuit boards, network latency measured in milliseconds, the precise position of every single gyroscope.
It really is identical to an airplane's black box. It captures the exact digital environment of the failure. So to the public sitting in the auditorium, it looks like a multi-million-dollar disaster.
Right.
But to the engineers back at Qualcomm, a successful deployment of the emergency safety system that yields a rich black box of telemetry data is actually highly valuable.
It is a total goldmine of information.
Which brings up an interesting logical deduction. If dropping a multi-million-dollar machine is actually a highly engineered feature rather than a bug, Qualcomm cannot be the only company dealing with gravity, right?
Right.
If this telemetry data is that valuable, other companies must be letting their robots eat dirt to collect it. Let's look at the broader industry context here.
It is essentially a rite of passage across the entire field of humanoid robotics right now.
Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah. The broader industry landscape is full of these incidents, and the source material highlights a really striking parallel from just last November.
Oh, the Russian robot.
Exactly. A Russian humanoid robot named Aldol, developed by a company called Idol Robotics, collapsed face first during a live public presentation in almost the exact same scenario.
Another highly anticipated demo, another sudden faceplant. And the response from Idol Robotics provides crucial context for how developers actually view these public falls.
It does.
Because after the Aldol robot went down, engineers temporarily pulled it from all public demonstrations to investigate its balance systems and its software thoroughly. And the CEO of Idol Robotics, Vladimir Vitukin, made a very specific, almost aggressive argument about the necessity of that failure.
Yeah, Vitukin pushed back hard against the idea that the fall represented some fundamental design flaw.
Right.
He argued that it was a vital learning opportunity rooted entirely in calibration issues. His core point was that real-world failures provide engineering insights that you simply cannot simulate in a laboratory environment, no matter how advanced your computer models are.
Because a computer simulation is sterile, you know? You can run a physics simulation of a robot walking 10 million times on a server, and it will walk perfectly. But a simulation doesn't account for the chaotic, random variables of a live environment.
Exactly. Think about the stage at Computex, or a convention center. It's vibrating from heavy subwoofers.
Oh, yeah.
There's immense radio frequency interference from, 10,000 smartphones pinging local cell towers in the audience.
Right.
There are intense hot stage lights creating strange thermal dynamics on the robot's optical sensors, and the flooring itself might have microscopic variations in density.
It's like trying to pat your head, rub your belly, solve calculus, and hold a conversation, all while walking on a sheet of ice.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
Even a millisecond lapse in focus means you're going down, because the robot's internal gyroscope has to send 1 million microcorrections a second to those actuators just to keep the chassis upright against all that invisible interference. One dropped packet of data because of I don't know, a weird Wi-Fi reflection off a metal chair and gravity takes over, the margin for error is effectively zero.
Which is why, if we connect this to the bigger picture, Vitukin emphasized that Aldal's fall was due to how the software interacted with those specific real-world variables. The physical foundation of the robot was sound. It was the micro-adjustments in the code that needed refining based directly on the telemetry data they gathered during the crash.
You just cannot build a resilient system without finding out exactly where its breaking points are. You literally have to push the hardware until it falls over in the real world so you know exactly how to rewrite the code to keep it standing up next time.
Precisely. Controlled failures during testing, even when that testing accidentally happens on a live stage in front of the global press, are a completely normal and necessary part of developing advanced autonomous machines.
Which brings this entire discussion right back to you, the listener. You might be listening to this breakdown of actuators and telemetry and thinking, okay, this is an interesting story about a tech conference, but why should I care about how a robot falls over?
Right.
Well, here's why this matters directly to your future. We are talking about an industry where companies are pouring billions of dollars into AI and robotics. This is no longer speculative science fiction.
Not at all.
The immediate roadmap for the next decade is integrating these machines into our daily lives. Eventually, these humanoids are going to be in our hospitals moving patients, they're going to be in our warehouses carrying heavy inventory, and inevitably, they are going to be in our homes.
And as these systems transition from controlled laboratory environments into our domestic spaces, the stakes for safety become astronomically high.
Exactly. When a robot is carrying a tray of hot coffee in your kitchen or assisting a nurse in a crowded hospital hallway, you want absolute certainty that if it experiences a momentary glitch, if the home Wi-Fi drops, or a sensor gets confused by a shadow cast by a ceiling fan, that its immediate hardwired reflex is a harmless, localized, safe collapse.
Yes.
You want it to power down and drop safely to the floor, rather than locking its servos and flailing unpredictably right next to a human being.
That is the ultimate takeaway from all the source material here. Every successful, highly capable robot that we will see in the future is being built directly upon the foundation of the lessons learned from the failures of today.
Yeah.
The Computex incident wasn't a step backward at all. It provided incredibly valuable, real-world engineering data that actively accelerates the development of safer, more resilient designs.
The awkward exit under a satin cloth today basically buys us the reliable, safe automation of tomorrow. It is the necessary growing pains of an entirely new species of technology. It's failing forward in the most literal sense possible.
It really is.
And, it leaves us with something really fascinating to ponder as we wrap up today's deep dive. We've spent our time unpacking the rigorous engineering of the safe collapse, right? How developers are perfectly mastering the mechanical physics of falling to protect human lives and expensive hardware.
Right.
But it makes you wonder about the psychological side of the equation as these robots actually enter our homes. If engineers perfectly master the safe collapse to protect humans and hardware, will the next step be programming these robots with artificial grace or even embarrassment?
Oh, wow.
Think about that robot raising its one single fist from the floor after it crashed. When a humanoid robot eventually trips over a rug in your living room in the year 2035, will it need to be programmed to make a self-deprecating joke or let out an artificial nervous laugh just to diffuse the tension and make us humans feel more comfortable around a falling machine?
That's a wild thought.
If they have to learn how to fall like us to be safe, will they also need to learn how to be embarrassed like us just to be accepted? Something to mull over until next time.
Okay, one question for you. Do you think Qualcomm's AI humanoid robot collapsing during a live demonstration is simply a normal part of developing advanced robotics, or does it reveal that humanoid AI technology still has a long way to go before it can be trusted in everyday life? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.